The Electoral Commission is expected to present a new constitutional instrument to Parliament to amend the existing CI 94. This amendment is aimed at allowing eligible voters to transfer their votes after participating in the upcoming registration exercise. The amendment has become necessary because the existing CI 94 only allows voters to transfer their votes 12 months ahead of the elections. With barely 24 sitting days left for Parliament to adjourn, the EC is expected to lay the CI on time for it to mature before the House goes on recess. Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Majority Leader Oseichi Mensah-Bonsu made this disclosure at a media encounter today.
Any of such that must be submitted early enough, perhaps next week, if they want to see the maturation of the instruments, that is before Parliament takes an adjournment and resumes, then you'll have to bring the instruments to the House next week. So we'll see how many of them they may bring. I'm almost sure that as we're relating to day before yesterday, in respect of the Electoral Commission, their own CI may have to be brought to Parliament next week. The CI 94 relates in particular to the transfer of voting. You know, in the original, voters cannot transfer within 12 months leading to the elections, right? That's the statute. But this year, after they finish, you'll be left with less than 6 months anyway. So strictly and technically, if you want to transfer, you may not be able to transfer. And yet, for the students in particular, you may have to make provision for them. So it will mean an amendment to the CI.
We now cross over to my colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, who is observing a pilot of the new biometric kit to be used for the upcoming registration exercise. Parker-Wilson joins us live now. Parker, what can you tell us about this piloting?
All right, so Mama V, we are here at the research where the Electoral Commission essentially is trying to test the performance of the biometric kits that will be used for the mass registration exercise. And since I got here, I've made my own observation, and one thing that I observe is that the Electoral Commission seems to tackle two things at a time, where they're looking at the performance of the biometric kits and also the concerns about safety when applicants or electorate would want to register for the voters' ID card. And one of the things that they do is that the moment you enter, there is a security official there where they'll check the temperature with the thermometer gun, and also you'd have to wash your hand. And I see some police personnel also there, because this is more like a registration center that would be replicated during the mass registration. And if you're talking about social distancing, as you can see, the chairs are being spaced, and I see a white box where all the chairs have been positioned in just to ensure that they don't breach the social distancing. And I want to do something, Mamavi, because one of the social distancing protocol is that you have to get about 6 feet social distancing. So just permit me to count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exactly 6 feet. So that is what the Electoral Commission is doing, just to ensure that they are observing the social distancing protocol. When you are done, you move to the registration officer, and I see some of them with nose masks as well, and others also with gloves. They will take your details and ensure that you go through the process smoothly. So this is what is happening here at the Rage Center, and some of the political parties have been present. The NPP was here a while ago. I spoke to the chairman of the campaign manager of the 2020 elections, that is Peter McMenu, and also some Nanabi being the youth organizer of the party. The director of communications for the Electoral Commission, Madame Seviano, is here, and I just want to just get a quick information from here. Madam. Yes, so, Madam, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Basically, I have made my own observation, but what is the Electoral Commission seeking to achieve with this process?
Yes, you may ask. Now, the essence of a pilot exercise is to make sure that you cross all your T's and you dot your I's, making sure that you are set in case there are problems. You know, you're able to nip them in the bud before the D-Day. We are talking about the 30th of this month. The commencement, which marks the commencement of the registration exercise. Now, so basically the essence of this exercise is to make sure that we are able to identify if there are any problems so we can solve them and run the registration exercise smoothly.
Right, but has there been any challenge so far?
So far, I, for one, haven't been able to identify any serious challenge. What we are seeing is that maybe some of the queues there are quite a number of people here. They are patronizing it, and averagely, you see one person going through like 5 minutes or 6 minutes, depending on the speed of the one behind the computer, you know, behind the machine, so that if you are able to fast track the process, you know, for instance, if you are going to the registration center, you need to get all your details right. You may have to fast track that process by, for example, making sure that you have your name written boldly on the sheet of paper, your house number, your address, and that kind of stuff. That can fast track it. But if you get there and you are not too sure about one thing or the other, it can affect. For instance, some people have come here and they spent just a little time at the first point of call, which is the registration officer table. Now, if you are able to give the information faster, you go faster, then you go on and on and on and on. I haven't seen any serious challenge there, thankfully. I haven't seen any serious challenge. It has been smooth so far.
Thank you very much. So that's Madam Sylvia Anode telling us that the process has been smooth so far. So this is the piloting exercise of the Electoral Commission with regards to the registration kit here at Ridge Church, Mamavi.
And that's Kwesi Parker-Wilson live from Ridge Church here in Accra. Let's turn our attention now to vigilantism. And on Wednesday, the opposition National Democratic Congress finally signed the comprehensive roadmap designed by the National Peace Council to deal with political vigilantism in the country. In February this year, the party refused to sign the document, arguing that out of the 22 recommendations to tackle the menace, only 4 has a direct bearing on political parties. Meanwhile, a recent research by the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, has revealed that some Ghanaians believe that the law on vigilantism will be ineffective because of the lack of political will and corrupt practices by law enforcers. Mausi Yao Domino is a research analyst with the CDD. He joins us via Zoom for some analysis. Mausi, good afternoon, if you can hear me. First of all, does the signing of the Code of Conduct towards ending political vigilantism strengthen the existing law in any way?
Hello, Mamavi. Good afternoon, and thank you very much. And good afternoon to your viewers as well. With the signing of the pact, I believe that the pact and then the law, which is Act 999, are 2 different documents. Okay, whilst the law deals with the legal aspect of trying to end the problem of political vigilantism, the roadmap actually deals with the moral suasion aspect of it. And so these are 2 different things, but however, they are interrelated because the roadmap itself, some way, somehow draws on Act 999 in its formulation. So I think that the NDC signing or endorsing the Vigilantism Pact or the Code of Conduct is a good step in the right direction that indicates their commitment to the process of helping to eradicate political vigilantism from Ghana's political and electoral space.
Marcy, the vigilantism groups have been quiet these days. They're not showing off that like they used to. Does it mean that they have been defeated for good? We will not see them?
I think it will be early days yet to sort of celebrate a victory. And I'll premise this on our own monitoring that we've been doing in the airwaves ever since the law actually, the whole process for formulating the law actually started somewhere in April. I realized that from April 2009 up to now, there's been fewer cases of political vigilantism that have been recorded, nationwide. And I want to believe that we cannot be too sure whether we defeated them or not. But however, I would just want to say that somewhere in April 2019, the leader of the Invisible Forces, of Delta Forces, Kojo Bamba, came out to publicly announce that his group has disbanded the Delta Forces. And along that, just around that same time, Chairman Wuntumi or Chairman Chubo Isiako of the Ashanti region of the NPP also came out to say that anybody who claims to be with the Invisible Forces, the police could go ahead and arrest them. He somehow used to, mount spirited defense for these people, but they came out to actually condemn their act. And so, for now, as it stands, that is what those people have said. Okay. And on the ground, it will be very difficult to tell whether this has actually happened, whether political vigilante groups have actually been disbanded. And if these groups have been disbanded, what have they been up to now? These are things you cannot really find answers to. And whether they've evolved into other groups or they've metamorphosed into other groups, you cannot really tell. But the whole issue is that we are in a sort of a test period for us to actually find out whether the law that has come into effect, Act 999, that came into effect since August 2019, and now this vigilantism roadmap that has been signed by all the political parties, NPP, NDC, and then all the other stakeholders, whether these things are actually enforced. I'm saying this because usually it's around the electoral processes that you also tend to see a little bit of activity from these vigilante groups. So now that we are about to go into the voter registration processes and subsequently into political campaign mode and all that, this is the actual time for us to actually gauge and then see whether all these measures that have been put in place by government and then the political parties with the Peace Council at the helm of this, whether all these things have actually borne much fruit. And so in my opinion, I'm saying that this we are in a test period to actually find out whether the law would actually work. That is when somebody does, in the course of time, when we see that somebody has committed an offense, that is a breach of Act 999, whether the security agencies will actually take the person on without fear or favor or looking at the party that the person belongs to, and whether the entire criminal justice system will actually live up to expectation by actually dealing with these issues that are usually politically related.
Just finally, before we wrap up on this, so what should agencies do to give confidence to Ghanaians that they can actually work with this law?
Okay, so for me, I think that one key issue that we need to look at is the actual political will to enforce these laws. We have a plethora of laws in our country, okay? But many a times, what hampers some of these things in terms of its effective implementation is actually, applying the law without fear or favor when anybody goes contrary to the law. So I think it's a challenge for the security agencies, a challenge for the criminal justice system to also keenly look at, actually enforcing these laws, whether the person belongs to one particular party in government or not. Political will is actually needed to actually deal with people. And I believe that it also starts with the government in power. If people within their fold actually do some of these things, I mean, the roadmap actually enjoins them to not shield people who are found foul or culpable of the law. So I think that is one step.
Okay.
And one other thing that I think has been missing in this discourse about the law on political vigilantism, Act 999, is Section 10 of the law actually talks about the fact that it actually enjoins the Attorney General to enact a legislative instrument to sort of, broaden the scope or to actually define and then give more meaning to Act 999. That is 12 months. That should be done within 12 months after the law has come into effect. But when you look at it critically, the law came into effect, I think, in August 2019. But up till now, we are almost about 10 months or 11 months since that time. This has not been done. And so this is something that the Attorney General Department need to actually look at and then, urgently consider bringing it out, particularly even as we are in an election year.
Okay.
All these things need to be ironed out and then very clear.
All right.
So that when an issue comes up and then the security agencies together with the entire criminal justice system is dealing with an issue, they will actually know the entire scope to actually deal with this particular issue. So I think that needs to come on board. And one other thing that I would also like to add is that there should be, monitoring. So I'm enjoining CSOs and the media, you yourself, you people should also help to monitor how the law or how the code, the roadmap is being implemented by NPC together with the political parties. Whether some of the steps that are outlining there are actually taking place. We need to monitor and then come out with the status as to how these things have been implemented so far.
Absolutely. Marcy, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much for your time. Yeah, welcome back to Election Brief. Now, aspiring parliamentary candidates for the Adenta constituency, Freda Agyeman-Sapong, fears the NPP may lose the seat to the NDC should delegates re-elect the incumbent MP Yaw Boabeng-Asamoah in the upcoming primaries. She alleges that actions of the MP has created division amongst delegates, a situation she believes would be dire for the constituency in the December polls. She argues that NPP needs a candidate who can unify the party for victory in the December polls. In an interview with JoyNews, Madam Agyeman-Sapong said she has the clout to put the party back on track for victory.
So far, my campaign messages have been 3. 1, unity within Adentan NPP. 2, empowerment. And then you know that our president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is seeking for more women in his administration. So based on these 3, I'm talking to my delegate the need to elect me as a parliamentary candidate on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party.
Are you suggesting that there is no unity and empowerment in the constituency?
I'm not suggesting that. But what I think is that we need somebody who can do better. I'm not suggesting there's nothing going on in the constituency, but someone who is an entrepreneur himself or herself to be able to empower her fellow delegates, someone who doesn't belong to any of the 2 factions that is within our party, our so-called Team A, Team B. In fact, this has been a menace in the party. And if anything encouraged me to go into this context is the need for unity. Because as a people, we are not our own enemies. That is enemies in quotes. Our enemies are the other political parties that will be contesting come December 2020. So if we fight amongst ourselves, if we have leadership who can divide the party into 2, saying that some people are Team B, some people are Team A, and that there are some people that a group of people cannot work with, I think is very dangerous for the party. So what if the other party wins? Who is going to help the other one campaign for the general elections? And based on this, I think we needed a neutral person to bring all these factions together to foster unity and then push for both our seats to be retained and then the presidential elections to get more votes for our president.
So obviously there's selectivity going on within that constituency.
I would say that for that I will be honest. There is.
Well, Freda Agyeman-Sapong also cautioned the delegates against voting for monetary gains.
Fortunately for us, one of our own is up for the election and the only woman amongst 4 men. As a mother and a wife, I intend to nurture my executives as well as the constituency to make Adentan constituency a model constituency for the NPP. In all my interactions with you, I've always given you this Akan adage that yesma banyansafo yensma anamontenten. I went further to explain to you that if you send one with long legs to circle, who uses just an hour and comes back with nothing in his hands, but you send the shortest one to circle, who uses 3 hours and comes back with a lot of goodies in his or her hands for his people, then I think that we should go for the one who comes back with a lot of goodies. And that is exactly what I intend to do for my executives. I'm an executive, and that all our worries are also known to me. All the cries that the grassroots cry to us are also known to me. And when I'm given the opportunity to lead our great party, as an executive, I will not turn my back to my own people. I'll be accessible, I'll be friendly, and I will empower my people to get their daily bread every day. We shouldn't look at the one who will come and give us money on election day and then go back to be seen after 3 years or 3.5 years thinking that delegates are only interested in money. I respect my delegates, and I know that you are going to give me the honor to lead this party.
And we wish the very best in the upcoming fight. Trust your election headquarters will bring you comprehensive coverage on Saturday. That'll be it for Election Brief today. Make a date tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. if you can. Thanks for your company. My name is Mama Viu Swabwadi.